Time now for our rants and raves. Starting with you, Dan. Go for it.
I have a rant for Laura Ingraham
Yep.
of Fox News. We could give her one every week, but what she did this week was particularly notorious, and I think we have some video.
You have the clip.
In some parts of the country, it does seem like the America that we know and love doesn't exist anymore. Massive demographic changes have been foisted upon the American people. And they're changes that none of us ever voted for.
Now, of course, she said after the fact, I said specifically that this has nothing to do with race and ethnicity, but she talks about massive demographic changes.
Everything to do. She's talking about Mexicans and Asians.
It's and legal and illegal immigration. It has everything to do with race and ethnicity. I would suggest that she wrote her statement defending herself at the same time that she wrote the original commentary. She knew what was coming and she didn't care. And neither does Fox, unfortunately.
And they said that they were going to be monitoring the producers responsible for everything that came out of the... Something's flipped with her, though. Some switch went off. She used to be semi-normal. Anyway, Tom.
Send the letters to Emily.
I have something of a complicated rave. It's for the New England Society of News Editors. It's for Dan Rather and who else am I forgetting? And the Boston Globe. 50 years ago this month, some of us who are old enough to remember, was the Democratic National Convention in Chicago that was characterized primarily by riot and mayhem, including attacks on journalists. And there's a particularly interesting attack that took place on the convention floor against a young Dan Rather. I don't know if we still have that to show.
Take your hands off of me. Unless you intend to arrest me, don't push me, please. I know you won't, but don't push me. Take your hands off of me unless you intend to arrest me. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Well, Walter, as you can see, I'm sorry to be out of breath, but somebody belted me in the stomach doing that.
Wow. I think 2 points. One is that violence against journalists in political settings is not new, but it's also real. And I think that gets to the larger point here, that when you have a president now who continues to stir up crowds, we talked earlier about Jim Acosta, who's been the victim of this. This isn't empty rhetoric. This isn't something that just is for the show. This is real harm is quite possible here. Now, the Boston Globe and the New England Society of News Editors have called for a coordinated editorial campaign August 16th, next Thursday, for all newspapers and editorial statements to condemn the president's call for the media is the enemy. And I applaud them. We'll see how widely that call is done.
All right, Callie.
I have a rave. I want to be pleasant now at the end for the New York Times, because they're doing this new thing called Your Feed. Now, we have some of similar kinds of things, but they've really done some homework on this and found out that people actually don't want to coalesce a lot of stuff to save. They want to follow many different subjects. I realized as I was reading this, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to know what's going on. I mean, I want to save it. So they figured out this very sophisticated way for you to, click on their icon and pick what you'd like to follow, even tweets in the moment from folks who are following specific subjects. And you can be as variety as gardening to what's happening in gender as society, what's happening on the Mueller investigation, all of this stuff. And they're getting a lot of good response.
And then you get alerts when this stuff...
Yeah, this is kind of... I like this. And I'm not usually one, I'm kind of... I'm not nerdy like Dan on these things, but this sounds really good.
Yeah, this sounds fun.
They need a journalism one.
All right.
And by the way, the content is curated by real editors, by real people. Go ahead.
Matt.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to rant against Major League Baseball and the networks. Everyone's talking about the death of the game, and I think it's their own darn fault. The game has become slower and more precise. Everything is overanalyzed. We can thank big data for that. But the real problem is that the commercial breaks are too long, and that's the elephant in the room, and nobody wants to talk about it. So yes, there are things that they can do to speed up baseball games. They could limit the number of relief pitchers you could use in a game. They want to use a pitch clock. But if you don't shorten the commercial breaks, it's all going to be insignificant. They will all claim, the networks and the league will claim, that they can't afford to lose the revenue. But if you watch the games, they've found plenty of ways to create advertising in-game. And if you shorten or reduce the amount of commercial inventory, then you could charge a premium for it. So perception is reality. The perception is that games are too long, and the reality is that they need to change the way that they do commercial breaks.
I agree. All right, finally tonight, I have a rave. And this is going to be a little odd coming from us because we've been very critical of Curt Minahan at WEEI in the past. But he did something very bold and brave this morning. For about 25 minutes, he spoke about his real demons with mental illness, the fact that he seriously considered suicide. He explained in detail what he was thinking, the process of even considering suicide. He talked about being institutionalized at McLean's the last couple of days. Came on, Derry Callahan asked him really good questions about how could you even consider that when you've got 2 young children at home. He answered that as best he could in a very truthful kind of manner. And I have to say, for anybody who's interested in this subject at all, because it actually kind of turned my head around, I have to be honest, because I haven't always had such generous thoughts about people who commit suicide. It really turned my head around. It's about 25 minutes, and it's worth listening to. So congratulations to Curt for doing that.